Okay, our next episode is called Unnatural Selection. It's episode number 33, and it originally aired on January 28th, 1989. It was written by John Mason and Michael Gray, and directed by Paul Lynch. Okay, and plot-wise with this episode, after they find the USS Lantry totally lifeless, meaning that its crew is dead from rapid old age, the Enterprise sets course for the Lantry's last stop, which is the Darwin Genetic Research Station. Now, the station's main task involves the genetic engineering of perfect humans, and it has already created several such children. And when the Enterprise arrives at the research station, the crew finds that the station's scientists are experiencing the same kind of rapid aging that occurred on the USS Lantry. Now, in their first communication with the station, the head scientist worries that the children will become infected and pleads for the Enterprise to evacuate them. Now, at first Picard refuses, but then he allows Dr. Pulaski to beam one child aboard in suspended animation. And although Pulaski seems to, while she examines the child and believes that he's safe, she seems to believe everything's okay, Picard is still not quite convinced. So to prove that the boy is harmless without any risk to the crew, Pulaski asks Picard if she can examine him in a shuttlecraft where they'll be isolated. And Picard and Pulaski basically have kind of a little bit of bickering this episode, and Pulaski's kind of struggling to figure out how to have a good rapport with the captain and appease the captain. And Picard finally recognizes that she's trying to meet his conditions, so she does allow him to examine the boy on the shuttlecraft. But 18 minutes after removing him from suspended animation, suddenly Pulaski grabs her elbow and recognizes that she's getting some inflammation attacks due to arthritis, which is the first symptom of the disease. Now, since the boy is obviously a carrier, the Enterprise beams him back to the research facility, and a quarantine is now imposed on the shuttle, and Data also takes Pulaski to the facility too, because since she's now infected, she has to be quarantined. Now, at the station, Data figures out that the children are actually the cause of the disease. They're not just carriers, they are the cause. So their active immune systems accidentally created a new virus that changes the human DNA. And now that the Enterprise knows the cause of the disease, Data can safely transport back to the ship, and by using the DNA found in a hair in Pulaski's quarters, the crew actually uses that in the transporter to filter out Pulaski's altered DNA, and she is cured. And as the episode ends, the Enterprise uses the same technique to save the researchers at the facility too. And the USS Enterprise says goodbye to the Lantry and fires on it just so nobody else will be exposed to it, and that is the end of the episode. And I found this very similar, I guess mainly because it's about old age, to an original series episode called The Deadly Years. I don't know if any of you have seen that one, but the crew beams down to a planet and they find that somebody is dead, and they had the same experience of rapid old age, and they bring it aboard the Enterprise, and actually the entire crew becomes old, and they age rapidly, and they have to race against time to find a cure for it. And this is similar to it, a little bit different in that only Pulaski is infected, and fortunately the other crew are not. But something similar to that. And I really enjoyed this episode. I remember seeing this as a young boy, and it almost being a little bit scary for me to see poor Dr. Pulaski age so quickly. And the makeup, I thought, was done very well. Now that you compare it to 2013, it looks a little bit more primitive in its makeup style, but for the time I think it was really good. And I think Diana Muldaur did a great job acting in this particular episode. This was really a Pulaski episode, and there weren't too many of those in season 2 where she was featured as the primary person. But she finally did get it in this episode. Now, interestingly enough, those who remember Diana Mulder during this second season, they said she was really great to work with. However, she had a lot of trouble memorizing her lines. So what she often had to do is read her lines off a cue card, which I think is pretty interesting considering that she has had a lot of acting experience besides Star Trek The Next Generation. She appeared on L.A. Law, she was actually a guest on the original series several times, so I thought that was interesting that she needed to read off a cue card. It could be because some of the language in Star Trek obviously is quite technical, so that may be some of the cause of that. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode. I think in my mind, it sticks out as memorable. Maybe because I'm comparing it to the deadly years of the original series, but I enjoyed it. So comment below, let me know what you thought of this episode, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks, guys.